Okay, everybody, we're going to get started. You good? Okay, if everybody will get a seat or standing room. We did try to set up as many chairs as possible. I think we have 140. If you have an empty chair in that row, please squeeze in. There's a lot of folks standing in the back, and I know we can get some extra folks in here if possible. So thank you. I'm going to go ahead and the mayor was going to welcome and provide a quick introduction. But I think just following up from our council meeting, we're going to go ahead and get rolling into this. So thank you to everyone in attendance this evening. We're glad you're here. This conversation is all about transparency, understanding and showing you how your tax dollars are invested back into our community. Developing the budget is an open process and includes public meetings in which the town council hears from department heads on their operational and capital needs, as well as providing opportunities to review draft budgets before adoption. By law, the town must adopt a budget by June 30th each year. The town utilizes strategic planning and key strategic initiatives to help guide the decision-making process that then leads to budget adoption. First of all, I'd like to introduce our department heads who are with us this evening. David Price, who was up earlier, he is our utilities director and assistant town manager. Melissa Moore is our finance director and is very integral in all financial operations of the town and assisting with developing the budget. Jeremy Smith is our planning director. Chief Philip Voorhees, police department. Chief Alan Wilson, our fire department. James Horn is our emergency management and communications director. Chris Carter is our facilities and grounds director. Susan Valiente, who's filling in for Frank Sadati, who can't be here, Parks, Recreation, and Tourism director. Lydia King, human resources director, and Jason Lingle, our IT director. Somebody who's not listed on here, Carla Citarelli, our town clerk. She is appointed by the board and does not necessarily fall under general employees, but serves in a pivotal role, not just doing clerk duties, but other projects, things that she helps out with for the town. To help us better understand the reassessment process and answer your questions, we are fortunate to have with us the tax administrators from both Pender and Onslow counties. or their representatives. Joshua Kleen from Vincent Valuations is here from Pender County, and also Kevin Turner and Wes Wilson with Onslow County. We appreciate them joining us tonight to provide insight and guidance, and town staff will be available after the presentation should you want to discuss general operations or budgetary items. They are the ones who know their budgets in and out, they know their programs in and out, and this is a fantastic opportunity to address them if you need to. Just a quick overview of the topics that we're going to discuss. We're going to cover demographics of the town, budget planning, the fiscal year 25-26 budget, enterprise funds, general fund revenue, ad valorem tax. Then we'll hear from our tax assessing folks. Then we're going to take a break because this is going to be a long presentation to try and provide as much beneficial information back to the residents as possible. We'll come back and talk about sales tax revenue, general fund expenditures, accommodations tax fund, the beach nourishment fund, reserve funds. Then we'll recap, provide a timeline and calculator to provide assistance back to you, go through some frequently asked questions, and then opportunities to stay connected, stay involved, and stay informed, and then a conclusion in which we'll provide supplemental information for each and every one of you so that you can have available resources to understand supplemental items, and also just information that may be beneficial for you outside of just the town government. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'll be with you the whole time, so this is going to be a good one here. So before we dive into the specifics of the budget, this was brought up earlier, but I think it's important to take a step back and look at who we are as a community. What do our demographics tell us about Surf City today? So right now, our year-round population is estimated at around 5,000 people. This does not include people that live within the town's ETJ, but may use town services on a daily basis. But as we all know, that number looks very different once the summer season hits, as well as impacts from year-round population increases from neighboring communities. Surf City is not the only place that is growing. Holly Ridge, Hampstead, Sneads Ferry, they're all experiencing this tremendous growth and are coming to the area in which really drew all of us here, is the coast, the environment, and what it has to offer. During the peak months, our population swells to around 30,000 people. That is an estimate. It is very difficult to understand exactly how many people are coming across that bridge on a summer weekend, but that population certainly has an impact on us. That's a big shift for our infrastructure, our services, and our town staff to manage. Since 2020, Surf City has grown at a remarkable pace, at about 28%. Surf City is now the 20th fastest growing municipality in North Carolina. May not be by sheer number, but percentage of growth year over year, number 20 in the state. That's a huge increase in just a few years. Our town covers just under 10 square miles with about 7.6 square miles of land and 2.3 square miles of water. This blend of land and water highlights why careful planning and resource management are so important as the community grows. Our fire department doesn't just put out fires, they also have additional responsibilities. One metric to try and address population impacts is our residential water accounts and consumption. Today we have about 4,826 active accounts. That lines up with the population growth we've seen and helps give us a clear picture of our base year-round households. Another key factor is age. The median age in Surf City is 39.8. That makes us one of the youngest beach towns in the area, which is something that really sets us apart. We aren't just a retirement destination, we're also a community where young families are choosing to settle down and call home. 26.5% of our population are adolescents. I think we all see this during the summer and other times. They are out and on the streets and having a good time, our parks, etc. This percentage of our population not only requires good schools, but they need recreational programming, parks, strong community policing, and youth engagement. Now to look at housing, the average property tax value, again, I'll repeat, the property tax value is $403,804. This gives us some perspective on the type of housing market that is developing here and the overall impact of tax value and market value, two distinct things. Since 2019, we have issued roughly 1,500 residential and 300 commercial certificates of occupancy for new construction. That's a lot of growth in just the 5 years, as I've already mentioned. These numbers will continue to fluctuate over the next several years based on sewer availability. As of now, new residential developments that require a sewer extension permit cannot be served. Non-residential or commercial development is very close to its limit as well. The town adopted a water and sewer allocation policy recently that sets even higher standards to receive allocated water and sewer capacity for future projects to help meet community needs. It's not about getting in line as the next developer comes in and they get that capacity. The town has implemented a policy, and it's based on a point system where you have to go above and beyond the minimum standards in the subdivision or zoning ordinance to even achieve capacity. So what can we take away from all of this? Well, the picture is clear. We are attracting younger families, average age around 40, many with school-age kids, and that means our community's needs are shifting. We are not just planning for growth, we are planning for families, for children, and the services that make Surf City a great place to live year-round. So now we're going to get into some budget planning. We have seen multiple comments suggesting that residents were not informed before the tax rate increase, and this is simply not the case. However, I will caveat that with Mayor Pro Tem Sugarts had said earlier, different means and methods of communication always should be explored and will be explored. However, I will say that the town followed a transparent, months-long process that included multiple public meetings, workshops, notices, and opportunities for residents to review the budget and provide input. The budget process is not only required by North Carolina General Statute 159 Article 3, but the town also advertises and promotes these meetings more than is required by statute. This same process is followed every year to make sure residents are fully informed. Here's the entire process outlined. Beginning in November, next month, and I know department heads are dreading this, but we start our budget process, a meeting with department heads, laying out expectation, organizational structure, how we're going to prepare a budget, what forms are necessary, all the things that everybody has to follow as part of this process. Then starting in December, department heads begin working with their staff to understand departmental needs for the upcoming fiscal year, as well as reviewing things like year-to-date spending and other potential influences that need to be brought to the attention of the director. Then a staff level budget kickoff meeting is held, going over expectations for the overall process. Staff are provided approximately 2 months to prepare their budgets and enter information within the town's internal budget software. In the interim, capital item requests are being developed, and those are typically due by the end of the calendar year, or December 31st. The January and February timeframes are when council holds their budget retreat. This meeting was advertised in a newspaper as well as on the town's website. I'm not going to go into the specifics about that. It's been documented. Our friends with the media have put things out, and the town can certainly provide information if you do not have that. The outcome of these meetings are consensus on policy-related directives that will help shape and guide the budget development and set priorities. Moving into March, the finance officer and town manager meet with departments to review their budgets and ask questions about programs, operations, and funding requests. Cuts are typically not made at this point in the overall budget development process. At the March council work session, department heads then present their budget requests to town council, highlighting major increases or decreases to their operational and capital budget requests. Just as important are increases to budget requests would be decreases in budget requests. What services, what programs our department heads considering cutting. Those are services back to our residents. Between this time and the next scheduled work session in April, the town is finalizing revenue projections and determining what sort of discrepancy there may be between requested budgets and overall revenue for the town. This leads into the budget officer's submission to town council. Following that process, the formal public hearing is advertised in various places, such as the website, newspaper, as well as various other areas, such as governmental updates, which is a monthly newsletter that is published by the town, posting signs at town hall, etc. On June 3rd of this year, a public hearing was held and the budget was adopted. Now we will turn our attention to the fiscal year 25-26 budget. The fiscal year budget runs from July 1st to June 30th each year. We're solidly 3 months into our current budget. The fiscal year 25-26 Town of Surf City budget is balanced and totals $36,321,831 for all operations and is spread over the following funds. The general fund, which receives $19,520,551. The accommodations tax fund, $1,575,145. The Water Enterprise Fund, $4,108,325. The Sewer Enterprise Fund, $5,633,778. The Stormwater Enterprise Fund, $516,000. Radio Infrastructure Fund, which is $275,000. And the Beach Nourishment Fund at $4,493,032. I won't talk a lot about the Radio Infrastructure Fund, but this fund was created to maintain and keep up with radio needs for our law enforcement, for fire and emergency management, so that we always have recurring updates to that critical infrastructure. But there's probably not a lot of detail in the presentation on that. The process of balancing the annual budget has become more complex and more critical than ever as the town experiences rising service demands, increasing personnel needs, and the pressure of inflation-driven costs. I'm going to quickly go over our enterprise funds, Fund 30, 31, and 32. Fund 30, which is our water fund, Fund 31, which is our sewer fund, and Fund 32, our stormwater fund, are a separate part of the town's budget. They're used for services that operate like a business, where the costs are covered by user fees, not by general property taxes. This ensures there's a dedicated revenue stream to maintain and improve critical infrastructure. Revenues from these funds cannot be used to supplement the general fund and must stay within their respective areas. Getting into Fund 10, our general fund revenues. The general fund is the largest of all funds and equates to 53.74% of the budget. These funds cover day-to-day operations of the town, including police, fire, administration, parks and recreation, facilities and grounds, and all other general fund departments. Let's dive a little deeper into Fund 10 and discuss revenues and expenditures within this fund. Again, the general fund is a primary operating fund of the town and accounts for all financial resources except those that are accounted for in other funds such as water, sewer, stormwater, radio infrastructure, and beach nourishment. The town's adopted general fund budget for FY 25-26 totals $19.52 million and reflects a balanced approach to delivering essential services, maintaining community assets, and supporting future needs. The primary source of revenue for the general fund is ad valorem taxes, or generally called your property taxes. The town collects about $11.23 million in property taxes, funding more than half of the total general fund. Other important revenue sources include sales tax, which is estimated to bring in about $3.09 million. This projection is based on historical figures, guidance from the League of Municipalities, and other economic factors. Town fees and charges at $1.87 million. Intergovernmental revenues, $1.26 million. Those come from state and federal distributions, such as Pender and Onslow fire tax, beer and wine, ABC revenues, franchise or electricity tax, etc. Investment income, $1.23 million from earnings on reserves. Recreation fees at $507,750. This includes a separate rate for residents and non-residents. Also, due to grant contractual terms, a non-resident rate cannot exceed a certain percentage more than a resident's rate. So there are limitations when we do set those fee structures. Restricted intergovernmental revenues at $224,000 for specific purposes like road repairs and school resource officer funding, and $104,643 that was transferred over from the Powell Bill Fund Reserve. The Powell Bill is a state funding mechanism that provides towns funding to cover municipal owned and maintained roadways. And I can assure you that does not equate to the needs of the town to fund all of our roads. Altogether, these revenues provide a diverse and stable funding base to support our $19.52 million general fund budget. Each fund is projected a little bit differently. For the general fund, we rely solely on data from the county tax offices, sales tax reports, and a mix of historical trends and future forecasts. So we'll get into ad valorem, or the property tax revenue. As noted, the largest single source of general fund revenue is ad valorem tax, or property taxes, estimated at $11.23 million. This represents more than half of the total general fund and reflects the continued importance of property values as the primary funding source for local government services. Let's break down property tax revenue a little bit more. The town's increase in ad valorem revenue is not simply about collecting more taxes. It is about ensuring Surf City can continue to provide the essential services, infrastructure, and protections our growing community requires. Without this adjustment, essential services and long-term projects would face cuts or delays, leaving the community more vulnerable. One question we have heard many times is, since we've had so much growth, why do we need this tax increase? Let's discuss this a little bit further. As inflation continues to erode purchasing power, even modest increases in revenue must be strategically managed to ensure long-term sustainability. For example, in 2013, during our last tax increase, $100 could cover a certain amount of expenses. Now in 2025, projections suggest the gap will widen even further, with the adjusted value climbing to $138.29 compared to 2013. This steady rise underscores the financial challenges faced by both households, local business, and local government as we work to balance service expectations with economic realities. This in turn affects property values and tax rates. Property taxes are based on, Property taxes are based on two things: the tax rate set by your county and town, and the assessed value of your property. Here's how county tax rates have shifted in recent years. Pender County in green stayed at 64.5 cents for several years, then increased to 73.5 cents in 2023. The 2023 increase was due to a school bond referendum that was passed. Onslow County in blue held 70.5 cents until 2022, then lowered its rate to 65.5 cents, where it still stands. This was during a revaluation year. Brunswick County in yellow was steady at 48.5 cents, then dropped to 34.2 cents in 2023. This again came right after a revaluation year. Carteret County in red has made small increases since 2019's revaluation, and then dropped the rate to 23 cents after the 2025 revaluation. New Hanover County in black has continued to reduce their tax rate since 2020. Revaluations have allowed this to occur. Now the other side of the equation is revaluations. Focus on the large dots on this chart. They represent the last property revaluations completed by their respective counties. Surrounding counties update property values typically on a set schedule of every 4 years or so. Our tax administrators will give you more information on that. Please note that the last Pender County revaluation was in 2019. Pender and Onslow are scheduled for their next revaluation in 2026. Brunswick went through revaluation in 2023, which is why you see their rates drop, because property values went up and they lowered the tax rate to balance things out. Carteret dropped their tax rate to 23 cents after their 2025 revaluation. New Hanover revaluated properties in 2025 and were able to lower the tax rate as well. So remember, even if the tax rate changes, your actual bill depends on both the tax rate and your property's assessed value after revaluation. Tax rates are reviewed every year as part of the county's budget process. Just like the counties, each town sets its own property tax rate every year. Here's how a few local towns compare over the past several years. Surf City in green has held steady at 41 cents since 2013. 2019 was the last Pender County revaluation. Wrightsville Beach, orange, has continued to lower their tax rate since 2020. Curie Beach in red has also continued to lower their tax rate since 2020. Shallotte in blue stayed at 35.3 cents for years, dropped to 28.8 cents in 2022, then adjusted back up slightly to 31 cents. Southport in purple inched down to 27.5 cents in 2022, then increased back to 31 cents in 2023. Now keep in mind, towns face the same revaluation cycle as their counties. When property values go up after a reassessment, towns may lower their tax rate to balance the increase. Or if budgets demand, they can keep or raise the rate, which affects your final tax bill. The town can adjust its tax rate after revaluation to balance fairness across property owners and ensure enough revenue to maintain services. This is generally considered revenue neutral, what you hear. So just like with counties, your total property tax is a combination of the town rate and county rate times your assessed value, and both rates are reviewed every single year. The upcoming countywide property revaluation by Pender and Onslow counties, scheduled for implementation next year, is expected to further align property values with current market conditions. These revaluations will support a more accurate and equitable distribution of the tax burden. So, can the tax rate be repealed? Our attorney had answered that during the regular meeting. The simple answer is no. A new tax rate will not be set until the next fiscal year. According to North Carolina General Statute 159-7, a municipal property tax rate cannot be repealed or changed during the middle of the fiscal year. As shown in the graphic, the average property tax liability this year is $484.57, more than it was last year. It's important to note that homes built or remodeled after the last Pender County countywide reval in 2019 are still being taxed at those established values, not market rate or what the house sold for. For example, a home built in 2023 and purchased for $540,000 is taxed or assessed at its 2019 value of $343,956. This means the town collects fewer tax dollars than today's market values would suggest, yet these newer homes still require the same essential services like police, fire, and public works. So at this time, I'm going to ask that Joshua Kleen from Vincent Valuations, representing Pender County, and Kevin Turner and Wes Wilson from Onslow tax offices, respectively, to provide an update on their county's revaluation process. And then once they give that update, we're going to take a quick 10-minute break and we'll jump into the rest of the program. Can somebody tell me where their presentation is, please? It's already on? Leave it to me to mess up the technology. They probably could. I would not want to do that. I'm sure it's a great presentation. You got it?
We got to get back to that last slide you read. You click on the green part. It's going to pop up on web browser, and we'll go from there. So click on the green. Yep, allow that. She embedded it on the. There we go. And then.
Click the link.
Where's the present button? I can't see.
Yeah,
We're
right
working
here.
on it. You
yeah.
got it?
Yeah, we're good.
All right,
All right,
very good.
cool. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Yep.
Hello, my name is Josh McQueen. I'm here on behalf of the Hello, my name is Joshua. I'm here on behalf of the Pender County Tax Office, here to talk to you about what reappraisal is, why we do it, and what we're seeing. So what is reappraisal? Reappraisal is the process in which all real property in the county is revalued for its current market value as of a particular date. Real property includes both land and improvements on it, residential, commercial, industrial, and agricultural in nature. State law requires that we reappraise properties at least once every 8 years. The reappraisal distributes the overall property burden equitably across the county based on current market values. Market value is the most probable price a property would bring in an open and competitive market. Over time, most properties change in value, but often at different rates depending on location. It's important to note that the tax department does not create market value. Rather, we analyze market trends and factors to help establish what these values are. When will the reappraisal take place? It will take place on January 1st, 2026. Pender County began their data collection in 2024. The 2026 reappraisal notices will be mailed out to all Pender County property owners in March of 2026. New market values will be used to calculate tax bills from summer 2026 until the next reappraisal. We have 4 basic steps to a reappraisal. First, we'll collect all of the physical data, check the measurements and the condition of the properties. From there, we'll do sales analysis and modeling. Then we'll develop the schedule of values, which is a legal document that goes over our processes and the base rates that we've established. And then after that, the taxpayers have the right to appeal their values if they feel that we got the value incorrect. Where our values come from. Properties and sales are analyzed to determine current property conditions, market areas, and typical sale prices for areas. Some variations cannot be determined from the property's exterior, such as a bonus room above a garage being finished or unfinished, cathedral ceilings, or unusual floor plans. The challenge then is to develop tables that correlate the physical property we have on file with sales data to help predict values for all properties, even if they didn't sell during the revaluation time. The reason we do it this way, we're responsible for appraising about 55,000 individual properties all at one time. This is referred to as mass appraisal. Most major taxing jurisdictions across the county have the same sort of challenge. There's no practical way to appraise a large number of properties similar to that of single fee appraisers. So we have industry standard methods that have been developed. One of the most common ones will be a sales ratio tool. Sales ratio is a common measure of how closely assessed value matches up with current sales prices. It's a basic formula of taking your assessed value, dividing it by the sale price. A meaningful sales ratio requires considering multiple sales at typical market values. Sales of single properties or sales under non-typical conditions such as foreclosures, auctions, or short sales can often produce misleading results, so we usually disqualify those. In broad terms, we've seen evidence that market values around the county have changed in different ways since 2019. Some areas of the county have seen an increase in market values, while others may have experienced a decrease. Some areas have changed a lot and others by much less, and some areas are about the same. The next steps in the reappraisal process, on October 20th, we will be presenting the schedule of values to Pender County. On November 17th, we'll have the public hearing to hopefully adopt the schedule of values. December 1st, possible vote to adopt the schedule of values. December and January, public reappraisal presentations. January 1st, 2026, effective date of reappraisal. And then March 26th, we will mail out new value notices to all Pender County taxpayers. And we'll open the floor to questions.
Do you plan to go strictly revenue neutral?
The tax office has no control over the tax rate or deciding on revenue neutral. Our part in the formula is just to analyze and set the assessed value of the property, and then commissioners and council folks are the ones who set the tax rates for their jurisdiction.
Yeah.
You said that the bills will come out in March of 2026 and there's going to be an appeal period. What's that window of that appeal period?
The essential deadlines haven't been set yet, but on the new value notices, there will be deadlines and all the information to inform the public of what time they have to file an appeal appropriately.
I don't know if that might.
Yeah.
Could you repeat my question?
So what was asked was, will taxpayers be aware of how long they have to appeal a property? When the new value notices go out, there will be information provided to let you know what the timeline of the appeal is, how to file an appeal, and all of the pertinent information that you may need if you wish to file one.
What's a typical timeline? What's the typical period for appeal?
Usually, so in examples that I've seen, value letters have gone out in February or March, and usually appeal timeframe will run till mid-April, end of April, sometime into May. It fluctuates based upon what happens.
So theoretically, based on the timeline presented in your slideshow there, the newly reassessed property values are well established by March of '26.
That-
Well, let me just
Yeah.
withdraw and rephrase. I don't mean we're gonna, my point is, that would give the Surf City Town Council time before their June, tax rate adjustment that gives them enough time between the official reassessed dates of the property values and their next annual vote on tax rate. They theoretically have time to build that in and be revenue neutral.
Yes. The town council will be aware of the values the same time that the taxpayers are aware of the values through new value notices. That's when we'll be prepared to reveal the values. All the way up until we send out those notices, we're still analyzing the market. A lot of people think we'll hit January and we'll have all those values finalized, but we'll have the sales through December to analyze and then go through and check all of our models to make sure that they're hitting the values appropriately compared to the new data that's coming in. But everyone will be aware of what the values are as soon as those new value notices go out. Yep.
What's the geographic range of the comps? And do you weight the street you're on, for instance, as opposed to a mile away for comps?
So for residential comps, we try to always stay within the county and also stay as super close to that house as possible.
Is it weighted? I mean, do you say within a mile of the house? And if a house is two doors down, is there any weight given to the house 2 doors down as opposed to a mile away?
If the house 2 door downs is comparable to that house, then yes. But if we have a 3,000 square foot brick house and 2 houses down is a 1,000 square foot vinyl side house, I wouldn't deem that a comparable. So we wouldn't look at that. We would find the next closest comp to a 3,000 square foot brick house, which may require us to come off of the street to find that.
Which is weighted heavier, I know you said you started it in 2024, is the comparability or the time frame newness weighted heavier? Like, let's say your example, the brick house, 3,000 square feet, vinyl sided house, 1,000 square feet, but the one you did find that was comparable was back in December of '24, and market fluctuated a lot since '24 in our area. Which has the greater weight?
So in cases like that, we put more weight into the true comparable properties, but obviously try to research comps that have sold more closer to the reval date, which is 1/1/26. There are also special cases, and when some properties during the reval may sell twice. Those are golden tickets to our office, and from there we can establish a time analysis to apply to other sales to see how much value would accrue over time based on properties that did sell twice.
Will the assessed values be restored to the GIS data so you can look it up? It's been taken away.
Yes. We took that just because we didn't want, as we're touching all of the values and they're fluctuating based on what we're doing with our data, we didn't want somebody to see an erroneous value. So we've temporarily disabled that. That will go live again as soon as we've mailed out all value letters.
I have another question. Throughout this period where you've been gathering your data, and we've seen young men and women working, walking around the yards and stuff, can you explain what, are they county employees? A brief description of what their training is and what it is they're documenting.
I'll speak on behalf of Pender County. Pender County, and they utilize a contracting company, which I'm actually a part of. It's Vincent Valuations. All of our employees have been trained on the data collection processes. Our standard field inspection process is to knock on the front door, introduce ourselves, to try and allow the taxpayer to know that someone's on their property. From there, we'll have an internal interview, ask how many beds and baths you have. Do you have a lower level and upper level? Can you describe the finish of that level? And then we'll go around the outside of the property and confirm our measurements, check on the condition, take some photos. And then all of the work comes into the office where our appraisers, who are certified by the state of North Carolina, will conduct their desktop review and help get these models assigned.
Thank you.
Yes.
If somebody disputes their property value and they get a significant lowering, will you guys help out other people around that might have equally been misjudged?
It's the only way we can adjust the value is if somebody.
I can't-
The only way that we can adjust the value is if an appeal is on file. So if you guys notice that your new value letters come in and you disagree with that value, it may be in your best interest to file an appeal.
regardless of what's going on around you.
Well, only if you disagree with the valuation of your property. If you feel as if there's incorrect data that was established, like we have the wrong square footage, or you're pulling comps to your home and you feel as if the comps that you're pulling tell a different story than what the tax office has assessed, then that would draw cause to file an appeal.
You only have one chance to appeal? Like say a year later, 2 years later, could you appeal again?
Yes, you can appeal each year. There are multiple stages to an appeal. So the first stage is an informal stage. That's where you'll file your appeal. You'll work with an appraiser in the tax office. They'll take another look at the value. They'll send you a letter letting you know what value they came to. From there, if you disagree with the value, you have the option to escalate it to the Board of Equalization and Review, in which you're awarded an appointment with either the Board of Commissioners or an appointed board by the commissioners to make your case. The tax office will do the same. The Board of Commissioners or Board of Equalization and Review will send you a letter to let you know what they feel your value is. And if you still disagree with it, then you have the right to escalate it to the State Property Tax Commission. And then in addition to that, you can file an appeal each year.
Can you share what you're seeing in your initial analysis of the data? I'm assuming property values are increasing, so how much is it increasing on average?
Unfortunately, at this time, I don't have any data on any of that data in front of me, so I'm not at liberty to share it because I would hate to misspeak on a number and that not be the true reflective number.
I've had several ask me if there's a percentage increase that is allowed or by law isn't allowed. Is there any, can you give us any facts to a percentage increase? Could you go from 200 to 1.2 million or?
In the state of North Carolina, there isn't a cap to percentage increases, but if you look at what properties are selling for now, that's a very good indication of what the market is doing. All we do is look at what properties are being bought and sold for and analyze those trends, and that's how we come up with our market values.
What do you feel about knockdowns, like people coming in buying a trailer and then it increases the value? And there would be some sort of predatory thing going on with people. Would you evaluate the trailer for what it's really worth on the open market because people don't care if there's a trailer on it?
So the way that we handle property types like that is that we analyze sales for what they're buying. We'll take in consideration if they're buying it for teardowns to develop maybe a better house. In those cases, that may be a better case of treating it as a vacant land sale and taking out the cost of the demolition of the mobile home. But we really just analyze the market and see what the market is doing to help us set these factors and models.
Well, you realize that could really hurt people in trailers, or that somebody could tear down the street of a trailer.
Absolutely. But all we do is we analyze market values and see what is going on in the market to help us establish these values.
How much weight do you put in the graph that you show? I know it's not Sesame Street, but one thing is not like the other. When all the other places were going down and we are going up, is that Pender County versus Onslow County? I mean, are you guys together on that whole process?
I work for a contracting company, so I can't speak for that. No, I do not. I'm only contracted to work on behalf of Pender County. And as far as tax rates go, once again, the tax office has no control over what the tax rate is set
My
at.
question would be better asked to the council anyway. I apologize.
That's okay.
Question in the back.
Hi, so going back to the question about the assessor's role, should an assessor come to your home and you are not home, or you choose not to answer the door? What happens then when they're not able to gather the information on which you guys are facing the assessor on?
Absolutely. So there's not really any kind of legislation that says yes or no on what to do in those cases. So if we knock on the door and no one answers, we'll leave either a business card or a door hanger to let somebody know that somebody was by the property. Then we'll go ahead and conduct the visit from the outside of the property, just as I stated before. We will not enter the property if there is a locked gate preventing us access from it. If there are private property or no trespassing signs, we respect those, and that is how we handle situations like that.
Is the homeowner required to get back to you and reply on like the business card you're leaving, or can they just choose to ignore it?
They can choose to ignore it. It's only for an opportunity if there's maybe something unusual about the inside of your home that you would feel to make us aware, then you would want to reach out and make us aware of that. Yeah. Any other questions or concerns?
Didn't you say to me when you came to my house that they would use a drone to go over and look in your backyard?
I haven't been out to your house, but we also do not utilize drones. We already have a hard time letting people know when real people are coming by. So introducing a foreign object probably wouldn't go over so well. Yeah. Thank you all for your time.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Kevin Turner. I am the tax administrator from Onslow County. Thank you all for coming out tonight and asking these great questions. There's one thing that I would like to add regarding the appeal process. Oftentimes, if you disagree with your value, you can reach out to a private fee appraiser to have an appraisal done to compare that to your property tax assessment. Part of that process is crucial in that the effective date of that fee appraisal is the same effective date of the tax assessment. And in this case, for both Onslow and Pender, that's January 1st, 2026. So let's say in 2028, you want to appeal your value. You think it's off. You contact a fee appraiser. It's crucial that you let the fee appraiser know the purpose of the appraisal, and that the effective date has to match the assessment date of January 1, 2026. That's called a retroactive appraisal. All appraisers can do it. They just need to know that that's what their assignment is when you engage them. And
How much, that was a question I was
Yeah.
going to ask, I was waiting for Onslow.
Sure.
How much weight does that impact having your own private assessor versus?
we review the appraisal, and we review the quality of the appraisal, we review all the sales comps that were used. Are they a true comparable sale to the property, or are they lowball comps to try to bring the property value down? We do consider every part of the appraisal, and we also look at the data that we used to arrive at the assessed value. And at the end of the day, and I think I speak for Pender as well, we want the assessed values to be accurate. And not saying we're right, you're wrong, or vice versa. If you feel your assessment is not accurate, bring us the information we need to do a more thorough review of the property. As the young lady in the back, said, we may not want to answer the door. And that's fine, you don't have to. That just means we have to do the best we can with the data that we have. So there may be stuff missing that we really need to know. But at the end of the day, we want the assessments to be accurate.
Kevin, can you just mention for Onslow, I know you know this, the appeal process, I want these folks to realize that this is not a scary appeal, right?
No.
You can make an appointment with the tax office without an attorney. You can just go on your own. You can do a formal appeal to the Board of Equalization or Review. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Absolutely. So the appeal process for Onslow, you can file we call it an informal review. Once the notices go out, there'll be a 30, 45-day window to meet with an appraiser. It's not required. you don't even have to meet with the appraiser if you don't agree with your value. You can file an informal review request online. You can make a phone call. You can detach the bottom of the revaluation notice and send it in. And an appraiser will review the property. If you want to be contacted, we'll contact you. If you don't, we don't have to, but we'll still review it as if we did and mail you those results. If you disagree with those results, you can file an appeal with the Board of Equalization and Review, as was mentioned earlier. And you don't even have to be present for that. You can submit the information to show why you think your assessment is not accurate, and we'll make sure the board receives it, and you'll receive a notice from them as to what their decision is. And from there, you can file an appeal further to the Property Tax Commission, if, as mentioned earlier. Yes, sir.
The schedule for Onslow reassessment process the same as Pender County, so that the town council has time to take
Yeah.
that into consideration for next June's tax rate vote?
It is, and it's pretty consistent across the board. You have to have enough time for the jurisdictions to be able to set their budget. Some of the dates are not exact. I mean, it's going to be off a little bit, but across the board, it's pretty consistent because you have to have that time built in. And another thing regarding the budget process, with the Board of Equalization and Review, the counties and towns get the initial overall assessed values when the notices go out. But one thing that's unknown is going to be the results of those property tax appeals. If property tax values are reduced as a result of that appeal, how much revenue is going to be reduced because of that value reduction potentially?
Is there an expected percentage of appeals and like,
You
what's the
can,
history of it?
yeah, you can look historically and try to get an idea, but it varies from year to year. This is my 6th reassessment I've gone through, and each one is different. Yes, ma'am.
If we did want to do an appeal, would we base that on, from a comps standpoint, would we be basing that off of the recent sale data for the house or from the new assessed value of the comparable house?
So if you get your tax assessment and you see a value there and you think that assessment is too high, you would look for comparable sales for your property, for your house, and you would want a sale date as close to January 1st, 2026 as you can get. That is the best comp to have. And you want a property that is as most similar to yours as you can find.
Sale data.
Yes, ma'am.
Outside of comps, can you use information like condition of the house, outdated bathrooms, outdated kitchens? Because I feel like some of the homes that are older, obviously they're on land that's
Yeah, that is absolutely important information that we need. And that's why when we're visiting your homes, we're not trying to pry, but that's information we need because we want to make sure your assessment is correct the first time to save you the trouble of having to go through the appeal process if it's not necessary.
Let me just ask one other question.
Sure.
So, Pender and Onslow, do you have budget surpluses in the county?
As far as
A
the budget,
surplus.
as
You
far as
have
money
more
left over
Coming
from,
in than you have expenditure.
yeah, that's a question that I don't know the answer to because I don't set our
Is
budgets.
the answer yes?
Yeah,
My
that-
question is, and I'm not gonna spend the day here with you all, but the graphs that you showed, your own graphs, showed this tremendous spike since 2020, right?
Are you referring to the tax rates?
I'm inflation, if you will.
Okay.
I don't know that was what the chart's name was, but from 2020 to now, you showed a tremendous increase. And most of us are here talking about a 30% increase in taxes, which just goes right on top of the fact that we're in a 5-year out of control period, it seems like to me. And how you justify that based on a budget surplus?
I think you're referring to the slide that had the value of $100 on there. Was that it?
No, it was one of yours, right, and it may have been that, but.
41 to 53 cent.
It was showing the revenue, the rate, the tax rate, showing the additional revenue.
It showed it for like
Gotcha.
a dozen years. I don't know
Okay.
what that
Yeah.
period was, but.
Yeah, the way the the budgets are set, and I'm not going to speak for Surf City or Pender County. I know in Onslow, the budget process that we go through is very similar. Department directors submit their budget. They go through a process of presenting their budget to county administration, and they make determinations based on needs and wants. And they do everything they can to keep the budget cost to a minimum. But if you think about the cost of doing business, the increase in the cost of doing business has gone up significantly over the past several years. You know what I mean? So it's the cost of doing business in 2020 is not the same as the cost of doing business today. And that's why the budgets are not designed to have a surplus. Certainly you have to have a reserve fund, but it's not designed to have an abundance of money. Or,
I have a $500 million budget that I operated before I retired. So I certainly understand the budget process. I'm just talking about the 30% increase based on the last 5 years in
these.
I can hear you.
Not everybody
Yeah,
can.
you're right.
So these fine gentlemen are here to talk to you about the reval process, not county budgets. So I'm going to respectfully say, let's wrap this up. It's time for a little break, and then we're going to continue rolling into the town-specific stuff. Cool. All right.
Thank you.
Cool. And I do want to thank, so just real quick before we move on, the tax reval process or reassessment process is extremely important for everybody. And we as a town want to be able to provide the information back to our residents about the appeal process, et cetera. So we'll be looking to Pender and Onslow County to make sure they get that information to us. We can get it out as direct as we can back to the residents when that time comes. But we have not been provided a schedule of values. I don't know what property value increases. I can make assumptions, but those are just assumptions at this point. So, cool. All right, so let's do 10 at 7:20. We'll get back started. All right, mic check. Are we good? Okay. All right, we're going to get rolling. As you can see, we've got several remaining topics to go over. These are going to be the sales tax revenues, general fund expenditures, accommodations tax fund, our beach nourishment fund, reserve funds. We'll do a quick recap, provide this timeline and calculator. I'm going to go through some frequently asked questions and then getting into the staying connected, staying involved, and staying informed. Then we'll get into our conclusion and supplemental info. That's the time where my entire department head staff is ready and able to answer questions, document questions, and then submitting that back to the public in a document that can be researched and looked at. So let's jump into sales tax revenue. The next largest source of revenue is sales tax, projected at $3.09 million. Sales tax is an essential funding source supporting a wide range of municipal functions, including public safety, infrastructure maintenance, and general operations. It has been suggested to raise the sales tax rate to cover additional revenue shortfall. However, the state controls sales tax authority. Counties can only levy what state law allows. Right now, counties can levy up to 2.75% local sales tax on top of the 4.75% state rate. Pender County currently levies 2%, making the total 6.75% in most of the county. In Onslow County, the local rate is 2.25%, which totals 7%. So can the county levy more? To go beyond the current local rate, the North Carolina General Assembly must authorize that. Counties sometimes can get permission to place a quarter-cent local sales tax referendum on the ballot, which is subject to voter approval. Without state approval or voter support, the county cannot simply raise the rate on its own. This year, we may have an increase in property tax revenues, but Surf City is projecting a decrease in local sales tax revenue. The decrease in projected revenue is simply based on the prior year's performance, state averages, and overall economic factors, which have not changed significantly year over year. Percentage increase changes in sales tax revenue post-COVID provided some stabilization, even though inflation was beginning to affect the overall purchasing power. Since the fiscal year 18-19 budget year, the town has averaged an increase in revenue projections by 14.9% to address increases in revenue, as opposed to keeping projections consistent to simply overperform and put this money into fund reserve. Sales tax revenue is expected to see modest declines or slower growth due to factors like slowing wage and employment growth, which reduces overall consumer spending. It is important to note that inflation and service costs continue to rise at a faster rate, and the town must continue to strategically allocate resources to ensure long-term financial sustainability and the successful implementation of its strategic priorities. This year's projections are $242,847.25, less than last year's collections. Revenue did not meet projections last year, which resulted in a budget deficit. Getting into Fund 10 general fund expenditure. So we talked about what makes up the general fund with revenue projections and various sources of revenues. We're going to now talk about what that Fund 10 general fund expenditures look like. The $11.2 million property tax revenue supports the general fund by funding the majority of the day-to-day operations, as noted. The largest share of the budget goes to public safety. The police department accounts for $4.2 million in expenditures. The fire department accounts for $3.8 million in expenditures. Together, they make up the single largest portion of our budget, protecting lives, property, and the well-being of our community. Overall, the fiscal year 25-26 general fund budget reflects the town's commitment to public safety, effective governance, and strong community services. So let's take a look at the breakdown. As you can see, those the expenditures based on department are weighted, with the police and fire being the heaviest listed. Departmental budget requests exceeded this year's revenue projections by more than $3.2 million. Here's an overview of just some of the items cut from the budget during the budgeting process. Even with the recent $358,856.47 in realized new revenue from property taxes, the town faced a structural funding gap between what was needed to maintain and improve services and what current revenue levels will support. Let me explain that just a little bit more. The $358,856.47 was new ad valorem tax revenue to the town. So year over year, that is the increase in which we saw from growth and development. Not on assessed properties like the tax assessors talked about, but this would be new construction or new development. In other words, new ad valorem tax generated over the course of the fiscal year was only a little more than $350,000. The 12-cent property tax increase helped bridge the budget gap this year, allowing Surf City to preserve its strong fiscal position while making targeted investments in the future to responsibly meet the demands of a growing community. Here's a list of new expenditures in this year's budget that attributed to the 12-cent increase. Fire Department, $752,550. This included 3 new captains and 1 firefighter, benefits, uniforms, turnover gear, 2 vehicles, and air pack replacements. Police Department, $616,384. This included 2 new officers, benefits, uniforms, equipment, 5 vehicles, Axon cameras, which are in-vehicle cameras, a half a storage building, traffic data hardware, firearms, and a sewing machine. It's not close enough to Christmas for this. All departments, $455,982. This went to a pay study or 2.8% cost of living. If an employee was identified in being sub what the market standard was, or if they were at that market standard and received no increase, the 2.8% cost of living was applied. Solid waste, $281,422. A new position, benefits, cell phone, and 1 vehicle, and then contracted services. Beach nourishment, $103,642. This funding increase was due to the value of the penny increasing, so there was a higher distribution that went back into the beach nourishment fund. Facilities and grounds, $90,788 for a grounds technician, benefits, the other half of the storage building. Information technology, $80,000. This includes IT support services for new employees that are hired. They budget within their budget the computer and other items that go along with a new employee. They had supplies, an IT server replacement, and a door replacement project. Parks and Recreation, $44,030. They had to upgrade their fire protection system at the community center, a new position, and benefits. Let's take a look at the funding needs for fire, police, and the pay study and beach nourishment, as those were some of the large expenditures. Surf City's fire department has stretched limited staffing as far as possible, but the current model no longer meets the needs of our growing community. Until recently, only 6 firefighters were on duty per shift, 3 at each fire station, meeting the state minimum, but far below the 16 needed for a residential structure fire by national standards. Tower 25, our ladder truck, does not have dedicated full-time staffing, relying on volunteers and limiting rescue and suppression capabilities. Population growth and visitors have driven call volume up 46% in 5 years. Overlapping calls now exceed 12%, straining response times. An overlapping call in general terms is when both of our fire stations are responding to calls, and then we have a third call that comes in. 12% is an overlapping call. At that time, the fire department has to set a priority in which they're going to go and serve first. That's a concern. To close the gap, the department developed a phase staffing plan. Phase 1, which was implemented in fiscal year 23-24, included 3 firefighters to be funded. Phase 2, which was requested in fiscal year 24-25, included the 3 captains. This was not funded and delayed to the 25-26 budget year. The final phase is 6 more firefighters and a restored position. Those are not currently budgeted. This plan would add 12 positions in total, enabling Tower 25 staffing and a shift supervisor at an annual cost of about $1 million. Why it matters: meeting national standards, reducing response times, and keeping citizens and firefighters safe as Surf City continues to grow. Also, ISO ratings are ratings assigned to communities and is applied on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is the highest level of protection. These ratings evaluate a community's fire department, water supply, and emergency communications to determine the quality of fire protection. A better ISO rating means more effective fire protection, which typically leads to lower homeowners insurance premiums for residents, as well as lower business insurance for our business owners. Surf City's current ISO rating is a 3. Fighting fires is only part of the job. There also has been a 90% increase in training courses, 110% increase in training hours, 73.5% in building inspections, 168% in building pre-plans, and 67% in hydrant inspections. Our firefighters are also responding to medical emergencies, often arriving before EMS, providing life-saving care, operating ATVs with rescue swimmers during off-season months to provide rapid response, training for rescue operations like vehicle extractions, hazardous materials, water rescues, and technical rescues, conducting building inspections, pre-plans, and code enforcement to prevent emergencies before they happen. Continuously training in firefighting, rescue, and medical skills to maintain readiness. Educating the public on fire safety, CPR, and emergency preparedness. Maintaining fire trucks, ladders, hydrants, and stations to ensure everything is ready when needed, and providing mutual aid to neighboring towns. Our police department is in a similar situation. As Surf City's population grows, both year-round and seasonally, the demand for timely, effective emergency response and community protection has increased. After reviewing the 4 listed criteria here on the slide and utilizing the council-approved recommended method, it was clear that the department needed to add at least two officers. Staffing review includes review of the number of housing units added to the town, as well as population growth, reviewing calls for service, and determining if patrol shifts have time allocated for proactive services, comparing data with other listing agencies, and identifying increases in special events within the town. The budget request last year originally proposed adding 2 officers. However, this number was reduced to 1. This year's statistics indicated that an additional position was necessary. In addition, police personnel were identified as necessary through departmental hiring matrices developed 2 years ago. These proposed positions were strategically planned to ensure adequate response times, improve coverage, and the capacity to serve a growing community without compromising safety or service standards. Generally, our police department runs on the rule of 1/3. 1/3 of their time should be answering calls for service, 1/3 of their time being proactive or proactive patrol, and 1/3 completing administrative duties. It is important to note the police department is anticipating an increase in service calls in 2025 as well. While these personnel additions come with long-term financial commitments, their importance cannot be overstated. Ensuring that the town is adequately staffed to protect residents, businesses, and visitors is a core function of local government and a key priority in the town's broader strategic planning efforts. As we talk about all the time, people come to Surf City sometimes to commit crimes. We don't know why that is, but unfortunately we have to look after folks that are not just full-time residents, but people that are coming here for vacation or from other places. Another key component of the town's current and future expenditures is investing in its workforce, the foundation of service delivery across every department. As Surf City continues to grow, so too does the complexity of maintaining high-quality services and operational efficiency. To support this goal, the town recently conducted a comprehensive pay study across all departments. The study was designed to evaluate compensation levels in comparison with similar jurisdictions, ensuring that Surf City remains a competitive and attractive employer in a highly dynamic labor market. Implementing and maintaining the recommendations from this pay study is critical not only for recruiting new talent, but also for retaining the experienced professionals who deliver essential services every day, from public safety and utilities to administration and parks and recreation. This ongoing investment represents a significant portion of the town's general fund expenditures and will require continued attention and financial commitment to support long-term workforce stability and excellence. Another major expenditure is beach nourishment, which accounts for 10 pennies on the tax rate. This ensures we are safeguarding our shoreline, protecting property values, and supporting our tourist economy. Without tourism, businesses could not thrive, jobs would not be available, and Surf City's budget would lean almost entirely on property taxes. Many current projects, especially beach nourishment, would struggle to be funded. Here's the penny breakdown. For every 53 cents collected in property tax revenue, each general fund department or function receives a portion of that. The police department receives the largest share at about 12.8 pennies. The fire department is next with just over 10.2 pennies. Another 10 pennies are transferred directly to support beach nourishment. Other major areas include facilities and grounds with about 4.4 pennies, capital projects with 3.4 pennies, parks and recreation with 2.4, finance, insurance, IT, and administration each receive around 1 penny. Finally, smaller but important allocations go to emergency management, human resources, community development, sanitation, legal, governing board, and EMS, each receiving less than a penny. Several departments did not see any increase in operating expenses outside of documented personnel costs. In short, every penny of the tax rate is working to provide core services, protect our community, and invest in the future. Now we're going to move over to Fund 21, the accommodations tax. So what is the accommodations tax? When visitors rent a home, hotel room, condo, or campsite in Surf City, a small charge called an accommodation or occupancy tax is added to the rental cost. The lodging owner collects this tax from the renter and sends it to the town and county each month. By North Carolina law, the combined town and county accommodations tax cannot exceed 6%. That comes from North Carolina Session Law 2024-21, House Bill 911, Section 14.1, subsection B. Half of the accommodations tax collected is transferred directly to the Beach Nourishment Fund. Again, all tourism-related activities, goods, and services are funded through that accommodations tax. For example, tourism-related expenses like ocean rescue and beach patrol are both funded through accommodations tax, as the services are seasonal in nature and are implemented as a direct result from impacts from tourists. This is a breakdown of the accommodations tax fund, highlighting fire department receiving $204,000 for ocean rescue team and equipment, police department receiving $81,000, but other expenditures that go towards this: seasonal employees that the town must hire to maintain facilities, portable restrooms, maintenance and repairs, access of beach crossovers, pressure washing, parking lot gravel, utilities, beautification projects, mosquito control, the welcome center expenditures, and then special events, as you can see on that slide. Now we're going to move to Fund 81, our Beach Nourishment Fund. Surf City's Beach Nourishment Program is supported by three key revenue sources: property tax revenue, parking fees, and the accommodations tax transfer. Together, this structure ensures that both residents and visitors contribute to keeping Surf City beaches protected, accessible, and thriving for the future. 10 cents of every property tax dollar collected goes directly to the Beach Nourishment Fund. This year, we are budgeted to collect $2.1017 million, which will be directly pushed over to the Beach Nourishment Fund. Net parking revenue funds beach nourishment as well. Net revenues are the monies remaining after expenses like pivot parking management fees, lot maintenance and repairs, and supplies. Last year, net revenues equaled $851,095 of the $2 million budgeted in total parking revenue. This year, we are budgeted to net $1,032,788. The paid parking burden lies solely with non-residents and visitors, as every Surf City property owner receives 2 free parking passes since the inception of the program. Transfers from the accommodations tax fund paid by visitors staying in hotels, rentals, and short-term lodging also contribute to the Beach Nourishment Fund. This year, $1.64 million is budgeted to support that fund. Surf City's Beach Nourishment Program is structured to ensure that both residents and visitors are contributing, again, to keep Surf City's beaches protected, accessible, and thriving for the future. So what are we saving these beach nourishment funds for? The Coastal Storm Risk Management Project, or Army Corps project, is a federal project which will significantly increase coastal resiliency on Surf City beaches by constructing a new dune and berm. The initial construction cost, which is split 65% from the federal government, 17.5% from the state government, and 17.5% from the local government, equates to $198,613,000. The federal share of that is $129 million. North Carolina's share of that is $34 million, and Surf City's projected share is also $34 million. That projection of Surf City's share does not include additional expenses such as designation of properties determined to be undeveloped, which will require Surf City to bear the full cost of nourishment. The Beach Nourishment Fund, while healthy, must be watched very carefully, and especially through the initial construction of the project. Future nourishments for this project will be split 50% covered by the federal government, 25% by the state, and 25% by local cost share. The total for renourishments is $362,304,000. Federal cost share being at a little over $181 million, North Carolina's cost share at over $90 million, and Surf City's cost share at another $90 million. These future nourishments carry an annual liability over 50 years of a minimum of over $2 million per year. So when initial construction occurs, reserves in beach nourishment go away. The town has been saving money for years to be able to afford this project. The alternative to this is to borrow funds, subject to federal interest rates. You borrow from the federal government, that interest rate can change quarterly. The town made a very distinct decision when they implemented 10 cents of the tax revenue to go to beach nourishment to be able to self-fund this federal project. Now, prices have escalated over the years. We would have hoped to have had this project completed in 2021, 2022. Circumstances that we cannot control disallowed that to occur. However, we are forging forward, but we have to understand that our commitment and our liability to beach nourishment beyond this initial construction is going to be challenged. We have to maintain our focus on that. What you can expect from the federal project, new sand berm and dune system along the entire 6.3 miles of existing shoreline, a sand berm approximately 50 feet wide with a crest of 6 feet, the dune system with a crest elevation of 14 feet high, dune vegetation, rebuilding of 40 public walkover structures, and periodic nourishments every 6 years. Other projects like the Banks Channel Shallow Draft Navigation Project, the 2024 Emergency Berm Project, and Vitex Eradication were funded with beach nourishment funds. During the Banks Channel project, approximately 580,000 cubic yards of dredge material were pumped onto the beaches from the Topsail Beach line to about 1,000 feet north of the Surf City Pier. Project funding included North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality grant at $14.47 million, Town of Surf City's cost at $4.8 million, with a total cost of the project being $19.3 million. In 2024, the Emergency Sand Haul project, funded through Beach Nourishment, repaired dunes that were damaged by winter tidal events. That project costs were approximately $286,000. Funds collected from parking cover essential costs, including the Pivot Parking Management Contract, lot maintenance, repairs, and supplies. Under the Pivot Parking Contract, for the first $1 million in parking revenue collected, the town pays Pivot 4.75% and 2.85% on any amount above that. Pivot then covers its own personnel and overhead to effectively manage the parking system. Last year, Pivot earned management fees based on gross revenue of about $63,120, resulting in roughly a 60% return on the town's investment. Oops. After remaining expenses are paid, the net parking revenue is transferred to the Beach Nourishment Fund, where it's reinvested directly into protecting and maintaining our shoreline. Our reserve funds. I'm going to get through the slide real quick, if you don't mind. Reserve fund is a financial safety net that strengthens the town's ability to manage large projects, make investments in the future, and responsibly save for emergencies. No different than your personal finances, reserve funds reduce borrowing costs. Lenders and bond rating agencies view a healthy reserve as a sign of stability, which can lower interest rates and save taxpayer dollars. Conversely, the town can make sound financial decisions based on interest rates, the cost of borrowing versus interest earned by investment funds. Oh, sorry about that. Improves flexibility by providing immediate cash flow to cover upfront expenses, match grants, or bridge gaps until other funding sources are available. Provides resiliency, acts as a buffer if project costs rise unexpectedly due to inflation, supply issues, or emergencies. Supports long-term planning, ensures the town can fund capital improvements without disruptive budget cuts. Build trust, demonstrates fiscal responsibility and preparedness, showing residents their tax dollars are managed wisely. In short, a strong reserve fund gives Surf City more options, better financing terms, and stability when moving forward with major projects. The fiscal year 25-26 reserve fund balance is at $15.7 million, which serves as a supplemental revenue source. It reinforces the town's fiscally conservative investment strategy. The numbers on the screen are audited funds represented by the town's outside audit firm, Thompson Price Scott Adams and Company. Every year the town is required to go through an audit process, which is presented back to council. The town has identified within its capital improvement plan the following general fund projects over the next 5 fiscal years, which total approximately $41.5 million. Reserve funds provide a financial safety net that allows the town to move forward with capital projects without relying solely on new debt or additional tax increases. Additionally, for fiscal year 2031 and beyond, the town has identified another $26 million in capital needs. As noted in the budget preparation process, projects are included in the capital improvement plan, but are not necessarily always funded. Here's a look at the next 5 years of capital improvement projects suggested. Fire Department, Station 25 addition, replacement of air packs, ladder apparatus replacement, the Tower 25, vehicle replacements, a fireboat replacement, thermal camera, gear extractor ropes, engine 27 purchase, engine apparatus replacement, feasibility study on Station 23 to do a renovation, a feasibility study for Fire Station 27, which would be a new fire station, Station 23 renovation, if that feasibility study comes back favorable, to include an ocean rescue addition, construction of Fire Station 27, and equipment. Additional vehicles, jet ski replacement, drone, body cameras for the police, in-car computers, cars, storage, welcome signs, the East Coast Greenway, vehicle replacements, radio systems, the drone program, perpetual public safety radio fleet maintenance and replacement, pay study for market update, additional vehicle replacements in IT, and server upgrades, all comprise of the 5-year capital improvement plan. So the town is trying to project out its needs beyond the current budget process so that we are prepared and we can start understanding how we're going to fund those needs. I can answer questions after the presentation if you don't mind.
Will you bring the slide back up that's associated with their question?
I can answer their question after the presentation. Reserve funds act as a safeguard in emergencies as well. Whether it's a hurricane, equipment failure, or unexpected infrastructure repair, reserves provide immediate resources so the town can respond quickly without delaying critical services. Take this example, reimbursable costs from named storms like Hurricane Florence totaled in excess of $13 million. Because federal disaster funds aren't available right away, the town had to rely on its reserve funds to cover those expenses up front. So as I went back and looked at our reimbursements for Florence, I received notification in June of 2021 for $7.2 million for not nourishment, but emergency sand haul project. Florence hit September of 2018. So that's a 3-year lag time in order to get reimbursements back from the federal government. That's the beach nourishment side. The other funds that would cover other recovery costs, road maintenance, building damage, et cetera, all have to be taken out of the general fund reserve in order to pay for those. Our debris management reimbursement came in just before the beach, the sand reimbursement at $1.3 million in 2021. So those are the time frames that it takes once we have to initiate recovery from an event like that versus if and when the federal or state government reimburses the local government. So to provide a recap, why the 12 cents? The town faced a structural funding gap between what is needed to maintain and improve services and what current revenue levels will support. The tax increase is funding the implementation of the pay study, which is essential to attracting and retaining a professional, competitive workforce across all departments, especially in high demand areas such as police and fire. Advancing capital improvement projects, including expansion of Fire Station 25, vehicle purchases and others, supporting pedestrian multi-use connectivity, including $250,000 for sidewalk improvements and the next phase of the multi-use path, enhancing public communications through updates to the website and new mobile application, and ensuring sustainability in the face of rising costs due to inflation, increased service delivery demands, and limited flexibility in other revenue sources. The 12-cent increases help bridge that gap, allowing Surf City to preserve its strong fiscal position while making targeted investments in the future. I'm going to go through a quick timeline and calculator. So in July of 2025, the tax rate increased from 41 cent to 53 cent. New tax bills were mailed at the 53 cent valuation. Everybody probably has their tax bills at this point. Budget planning then begins. County revaluation considered. Proposed budget meetings and vote. Tax rate to be determined. A question was asked of the tax assessor earlier about that timeline and process. This is a simple guide to calculate your property tax bill for this year and in 2026 after revaluations. We took the average tax value, property tax value for Surf City. You divide that by 100, then you multiply by the 53 cent tax rate set by Surf City. That equals your 2025 Surf City tax bill amount. This is a simple guide to calculate your property tax bill for this year and in 2026 after revaluations. The appraisers did not give any sort of numbers, so we just use a simple, we'll just say, okay, 40%. Probably very wrong, could be right, we don't know. At a 40% property value increase, this would bring your property tax value to $565,325.60. Divide that by 100, multiply the new tax rate, and this would equate to your new tax liability. Since we do not know the Surf City tax rate for 2026, the overall tax. I'm going to go over several frequently asked questions. Could the tax increase have been postponed another year? Guiding factors in the budgeting process are determined by key strategic initiatives. Several of the key strategic initiatives identified in the strategic plan and implemented through the budget process require dedicated recurring revenue in order to implement. This is demonstrated through the addition of police and fire personnel, as well as implementation of the pay study. These expenditures exceeded the town's projected revenues, and due to their relation to overall public safety, council did not delay this investment. Can the taxes be repealed? The simple answer is no. General Statute 159-15 states, no amendment may increase or reduce a property tax levy or in any manner alter a property taxpayer's liability, unless the board is ordered to do so by a court of competent jurisdiction or by a state agency having the power to compel the levy of taxes by the board. There are extenuating circumstances whereas a local government has not received revenues anticipated and has increased the rates. Our attorney had addressed that earlier. Third question, how did the town communicate with residents about the tax increase? Every year, the town holds numerous public meetings to discuss the development of the budget, which includes the proposed tax rates. This year was no different in that the budget was presented to town council in April and then published online in the newspaper and a copy available at town hall. In addition, it was noted in the mayor's message and governmental updates that it was published were published monthly. What cost-saving measures were explored before raising taxes? Each year, budget requests generally exceed anticipated revenues, and it is our job to weigh these requests to determine wants and needs. This year was no different in that the requested expenditures exceeded anticipated revenues. More than $700,000 was cut from those requests, including looking at historical spending in categories such as supplies, fuel, training, etc., to determine what was absolutely necessary. What other revenue options were considered to close the budget gap? The town of Surf City is limited in creating or expanding additional revenue sources. Both the sales tax and accommodations tax are controlled at the state and/or county level with little to no ability to make adjustments. Other options, such as municipal vehicle registration tax, was evaluated. However, the revenue generated, administrative tasks, and overall impact was not going to close the budget gap. Why not rely on reserve funds instead? Reserve funds serve as a financial safety net that strengthen the town's ability to manage large projects, make investments in the future, and responsibly save for emergencies. Increases in operating costs are typically recurring expenses, and just like your own personal finances, if you dedicate recurring expenses to a singular source of funds, eventually that savings account will no longer be able to support the expenditures. In addition, reserve funds work on your behalf, garnering interest income to be used in the future. What is the purpose and target amount for the reserve fund? Primarily, the reserve fund provides the local government ability to function should a major disruption occur, such as natural hazards or others. If the tax base is reduced, then the government still needs to be able to pay its bills and personnel costs. The town cannot operate in a deficit. In addition to this, the reserve fund can provide for a source of financial security, demonstrating stability when the town may need to borrow money with prescribed interest rates, with the goal to reduce the overall burden on the taxpayer. The town also is able to weigh the financing options for certain projects and make decisions on whether or not it makes financial sense to pay for something out of pocket or to borrow. If interest rates are not favorable, such as our current borrowing climate, it may make better fiscal sense to pay cash up front. The town works closely with an outside financial advisor to help weigh and guide these types of decisions. How are unspent funds handled at the end of the fiscal year? Unspent funds are returned to the fund in which they were appropriated. A budget is a spending plan, and on occasion, what was anticipated may not come to fruition. Due care is provided to try and estimate the overall need, whether that's fuel, supplies, or a vehicle purchase. The town has fiscal policies and procedures in place to assure overspending on accounts does not occur, which could then lead to budget deficits. With all the new development, why was a tax increase still required? Yes, the town realized $358,000 in new ad valorem tax revenue this fiscal year, but to put that into perspective, simply funding the pay study would have put us in a revenue versus expenditure deficit. What increases to public safety were made and why? 2 new officers and 5 new vehicles were the primary increases. New officers were identified as a need based on the adopted hiring matrix, which reviews the number of certificates of occupancy issued, a direct correlation with new residents, the call for service volumes and percentage increase, comparison of similar agencies, and increases in special events. 2 of the 5 vehicles will be assigned to new officers, and the remaining 3 are part of the vehicle replacement plan to replace older vehicles before they become an operational liability. Fire department, 3 additional captain positions and 1 firefighter made up the majority of the fire department budget increase. This is in line with the staffing plan that is working towards having dedicated staff for Tower 25, the town's ladder truck. Right now, the apparatus is unstaffed and the town is relying on volunteers and part-time staff to operate its deployment. The total need as part of the plan is for 12 new positions to be created, with 6 more remaining to be added in future fiscal years. Why allocate funding for council budget training or out-of-town training? The Surf City Town Council's primary responsibility is to adopt a budget and provide policy oversight to the town. It is important that they operate in a manner that is educated on current practices and laws, as well as what can and cannot be done by a municipality in North Carolina. As elected leaders in our community, they are asked to set vision and direction for the community and organization, convene others who can influence the future, and provide strategic leadership. Out-of-town training for this allows for elected leaders and staff to do all this void of most distractions and build consensus on strategic goals and policies for the year, which helps them become more effective leaders. Are the tax increases permanent, and what impacts will the upcoming revaluation have? No, the tax rate is set annually during the budget process and is evaluated every year and can be adjusted with the adoption of the budget. The next opportunity that the Town Council will have to do this will be for the upcoming budget for fiscal year July 1 through June 30th, 2026-2027. This rate will take into account the reassessment figures and can be adjusted based on outcome of that process. Typically, we have seen that following a reassessment or revaluation, the Town Council is able to make this adjustment to balance fairness across property owners and ensure enough revenue to maintain services. It is important to remember that until the reassessment occurs, it is unknown what next year's tax rate will be. The current tax bills are based on the current tax rate, 53 cents per $100 of assessed value based on those 2019 values and your current tax value of your property. There's a couple of other items that I wanted to go over. As I mentioned, we have our strategic planning session. Quarterly, we've been holding community meetings on various topics. This quarter, we will be talking about that strategic planning process. I urge you all to come out. That meeting will be from 6 to 8 p.m. in this meeting room. As always, we have social media platforms that you can follow: Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. The Surf City website, create an account on that. You're able to sign up for alerts. Anytime we post anything under news and notices, you will get that message. The mobile app, Surf City NC, it has an icon just like that in either the Google or Apple platform, whichever one you utilize. Emergency notifications, you can register for code alerts, code red alerts, register online, or you can register on your smartphone by texting Surf NC to 99411 and follow the directions. Or you can always call Town Hall at the number provided. Stop by or call. We're right here. And then you can always stay involved by coming to town council meetings, first Tuesday of every month at 4:30. Council work sessions, the third Friday of the month at 9 o'clock, right here at the Municipal Complex. Or you can watch the meeting live or later from home. This meeting is being streamed live. You can go back and watch that. Town of Surf City has several advisory committees and boards. If you are interested in applying, check out the website for more information. I believe we're actively recruiting for a couple of these boards right now. And would advise that you seek interest in applying and potentially getting on one of those boards. We want you to stay informed throughout all those resources, and then just to communicate with Town Hall. The monthly governmental update, this is again updated monthly and sent out on our social media platforms, advertised on our website. We have a new residence packet. We have the annual budget summary, the budget, the fee schedule, our strategic plan, our strategic performance report, the comprehensive land use plan, the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space master plan, the 2024 audit presentation, the 2024 audited financial statements for the fiscal year ending in June 30th, 2024. All agendas and minutes from Town Council are published online. Additional resources, the Town of Surf City website, the North Carolina General Statutes for Municipalities, Chapter 160A, the University of North Carolina School of Government, excellent resource, the North Carolina League of Municipalities, the North Carolina State Ethics Commission, and the UNC School of Government Center of Public Leadership and Governance. With that, it concludes my presentation. I will remain up here to answer questions and to go back over anything that somebody might have missed. Again, I advise that you please communicate with department heads who are here. They all have notebooks. They can answer questions. If there's a question they cannot answer, they will document that question. The town continues to receive questions online when people call. We look at social media and we document these. Our goal is to then republish these frequently asked questions, expanding as much as we possibly can back out to the public so you have answers to these questions. With that, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. I hope we were able to answer some questions. I understand that information provided certainly does not make everybody happy. I thank the mayor and town council for their leadership. And I also thank the residents, because a lot of you I do know in this room. We have mutual respect for each other, regardless of what those questions and concerns are. I'm always happy to help. I'm always happy to try and answer those questions, even though the responses I provide may not be what you maybe want to hear all the time. But staff does a really good job. I could not do any of this without their support and suggestions and comments that come back in. So thank you very much. Again, I'll remain up here to answer questions from the public, but this is a open session to go and look at the information in the back, additional details and information, the frequently asked questions, budget breakdowns. Our police and fire chief are here, HR, Parks and Recreation, Community Development, etc. If you have a question, we want to try to answer those. Thank you.